You've been lied to. Everything you thought you knew about angel numbers is wrong. People swear that seeing 111, 222, or 333, the universe is sending them a message. But what if I told you that's not what's happening at all? What if these numbers aren't guiding you, but instead, your mind is playing tricks on you? For years, millions have believed that repeating numbers are divine signs. But where did this idea even come from? Is there any real proof that these numbers mean something? Or have we been blindly following a belief that was never true to begin with? Even the creator of angel numbers, Doreen Virtue, completely abandoned them. So why are people still clinging to this idea? In this video, we're exposing the shocking truth about angel numbers, how your brain tricks you into seeing them, why they feel so real, and what's actually happening when these numbers appear. But here's the real question: if angel numbers aren't the universe speaking to you, then what is? That answer will change everything. Stay until the end, because by the time you finish this video, you'll never look at angel numbers the same way again. And you'll finally understand what the universe is really telling you. Let's dive in. You've been lied to about angel numbers, and today, we're exposing the truth. You see 111, 222, 333 everywhere on clocks, receipts, license plates. It feels like the universe is speaking to you, right? But what if you've been tricked into believing these numbers have meaning? What if there's something happening in your mind that makes you see these patterns, even when there's nothing special about them? Most people never question it. They just assume repeating numbers are a divine message. But here's the truth: there's a reason why you see them, but it's not what you think. For years, people believed angel numbers were signs from the universe, guiding them toward their destiny. It's comforting, isn't it, to think that 1111 means something deeper. But why do these numbers show up at random, instead of appearing when you truly need them? If they're really messages, why are they so vague? The truth about angel numbers might not be what you expect. Many spiritual awakening truths suggest these numbers align with your life's energy. But let's be honest, if they're so important, wouldn't they come with clear instructions? Or could there be a deeper reason your mind keeps noticing these numbers everywhere? Here's where things get interesting. There's an actual scientific explanation for why people see repeating numbers, and it's called apophenia. It's the brain's tendency to see patterns in randomness. Ever thought about someone, and then they text you? That's not the universe, it's just how your brain works. Another example. You buy a red car, and suddenly, you see red cars everywhere. That's called the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, and it's one of the most powerful cognitive tricks at play when people start seeing repeating numbers. The moment you believe in angel numbers, your mind starts searching for them without you even realizing it. But let's flip the script. What if angel numbers weren't just a coincidence? What if there really was something happening behind the scenes? Maybe they're not a message from the universe, but a reflection of something deeper inside of you. A subconscious shift, a wake-up call not about numbers, but about the patterns in your own life. Think about it: every time you notice a repeating number, what's happening in your life at that exact moment? The real question isn't why you see them, it's why now. Most never question where angel numbers even came from. Why did they suddenly explode in popularity? And who was the first person to say they were messages from the universe? The answer to that is even more shocking than you think. Angel numbers feel ancient, don't they? Like some sacred knowledge passed down through time. But here's something no one talks about: they aren't ancient at all. In fact, the whole concept of seeing repeating numbers as spiritual signs is shockingly modern. That's right, this idea didn't come from ancient mystics, lost scriptures, or secret spiritual teachings. So, where did angel numbers actually come from? And why did they suddenly explode in popularity? The answer will make you question everything you thought you knew about spiritual signs and synchronicities. Most people assume angel numbers were always part of numerology, but that's not true. Traditional numerology, practiced for thousands of years, focuses on life path numbers and personality vibrations, not random repeating numbers appearing everywhere. The idea that seeing 111, 222, 333 something specific, that's a new age creation, barely a few decades old. And it gets even crazier. One person is responsible for turning angel numbers into a mainstream belief system. This wasn't a spiritual discovery, it was a rebranding of old ideas into something easier to digest for the modern world. That person, Doreen Virtue. If you've ever searched for the truth about angel numbers, you've probably come across her name. She was the leading voice in angel spirituality, writing countless books, giving seminars, and convincing an entire generation that numbers carried divine messages. And people believed it, because who wouldn't want to think that the universe is sending them personal signs? But here's the twist: Doreen Virtue later rejected everything she taught. That's right, she completely renounced angel numbers, calling them deceptive and misleading. And yet, the belief in angel numbers kept spreading, almost as if no one wanted to admit the truth behind their origins. So why do people still believe? Because once a belief takes root, it spreads like wildfire. Social media, influencers, and spiritual communities picked up the concept and ran with it, turning angel numbers into a global phenomenon. Today, you see angel numbers everywhere, not because they're divine messages, but because the idea is everywhere. The human mind is wired to look for meaning, and when something becomes popular, we notice it more. But if angel numbers aren't ancient, and if even their creator abandoned them, then what makes people so convinced that they're real? Could it be that our belief in angel numbers isn't about the numbers at all, but about our need to feel guided, to feel like the universe is speaking to us? That would explain why people cling to these signs even after learning about their origins. But if that's the case, what actually makes people see these numbers over and over again? That answer lies deep in the psychology behind seeing patterns. If angel numbers aren't ancient and their creator abandoned them, why do millions of people still swear by them? The answer is simple: the human brain is wired to find meaning, even where none exists. Ever heard of confirmation bias? It's that little trick your mind plays on you, making you notice what you already believe. The moment you hear that 1111 is a spiritual sign, guess what happens? You start seeing it everywhere. But here's the real kicker: those numbers were always there. Your brain just started paying attention. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon for decades. It's called apophenia, and it's the reason people see faces in clouds or hear hidden messages in songs played backward. Your mind desperately wants patterns to exist. That's why seeing repeating numbers feels significant. It gives you the illusion that the universe is speaking directly to you. But ask yourself this: if angel numbers were truly messages, why don't people see the same numbers at the same time, worldwide? Why do some see 222, while others keep spotting 555? If this were universal, wouldn't the numbers be the same for everyone? Now, let's bring this to real life. Ever had a gut feeling that someone would text you, and then they did? It feels like magic, but in reality, you probably thought about that person hundreds of times before. It's just that this time, they actually texted. The same thing happens with angel numbers. You glance at the clock multiple times a day, but the moment it lands on 1111, you think, this must be a sign. But what about all the other times you looked and saw 1147 or 1032? Your mind filters out what doesn't fit your belief. This is where numerology myths and spiritual trends take over. Once enough people believe something, it spreads like wildfire. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, everyone is talking about seeing repeating numbers, and when you hear about something enough, your brain starts looking for it too. It's the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon in action. What you focus on, you find more of. But does that mean angel numbers have no meaning at all? Not necessarily. What if they aren't messages from the universe, but rather a reflection of your own thoughts and energy at a subconscious level? That's where things get interesting. Because while many believe in angel numbers as divine signs, others have begun questioning their validity, especially after Doreen Virtue renounced them completely. And her reason? She claims angel numbers were never real to begin with. Doreen Virtue wasn't just another spiritual teacher, she was the face of angel numbers. For years, she published books, gave lectures, and built an empire around the idea that 111, 222, and 333 carried divine messages. If you've ever searched for the truth about angel numbers, chances are her work played a role in shaping what you believe. But here's where things take a shocking turn. She walked away from everything. Not only did she stop teaching about angel numbers, but she also called them a deception. Imagine that. The very woman who popularized this idea now claims it's all a lie. So, what happened? Doreen Virtue publicly stated that she had a major spiritual awakening, but not the kind most people expect. According to her, she realized that angel numbers weren't divine messages at all. She began questioning whether they were leading people toward true enlightenment or creating an illusion that kept them trapped in false hope. Her renunciation shocked the entire spiritual community. Some saw it as a betrayal. Others believed she had finally uncovered something deeper. But the biggest question remains if the woman who introduced angel numbers to the world no longer believes in them. Why do so many people still hold on to the idea? Think about this when a belief is comforting. People don't want to let it go. Even when new information challenges what they know, it's easier to cling to what feels safe. That's why so many people ignore Doreen's renunciation. Her books, though disowned by her, still sell. Her teachings, though abandoned, still circulate online. Angel numbers had already taken on a life of their own. Too many people wanted them to be real. But here's the real question: if angel numbers were truly divine, why would the person who made them famous turn her back on them? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean angel numbers are fake, but it does raise an important point. Could there be a deeper explanation for why we see repeating numbers? Maybe it's not about messages from angels, but about how our minds work, how we interpret reality, and what we choose to believe. After all, seeing repeating numbers isn't just a spiritual phenomenon, it's something that psychology has been studying for decades. And that brings us to an even bigger question. Could the reason we see these numbers be hiding in the psychology of pattern recognition? Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It's wired to connect dots, even when no real connection exists. That's why people see faces in clouds, animals in rock formations, and yes meaning in repeating numbers. This isn't just a spiritual phenomenon. It's a deeply ingrained cognitive process. The moment you hear that 111, 222, or 333 means something, your mind starts hunting for it. And once you see it, boom, you're convinced the universe is talking to you. But is it really? Or is your mind playing tricks on you? Science has a name for this: apophenia. It's the tendency to see patterns in randomness. This is why gamblers believe in lucky streaks, and why conspiracy theorists connect unrelated events. Your brain hates randomness, it craves order. So, when you glance at the clock at 11:11, it feels special. But what about all the other times you checked your phone and saw 9:47 or 2:18? You ignored those because they didn't fit the narrative. This is called confirmation bias. You remember what aligns with your belief and forget what doesn't. That's why angel numbers feel so real. They aren't appearing more often, you're just noticing them more. Think about this: when you learn a new word, suddenly you hear it everywhere. Did the universe conspire to show it to you? Or did your brain just start filtering for it? This is the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, a cognitive trick that makes things seem more frequent once they enter your awareness. The same thing happens with angel numbers. Before you knew what they were, you never noticed them. The second you learned about them, your mind started highlighting every 111, 222, or 333 it could find. But does that mean angel numbers have no meaning at all? Or could they be reflections of something deeper happening within you? This is where things get interesting. Some argue that angel numbers work because you believe in them, not because they have an external power, but because your mind starts focusing on certain thoughts and emotions whenever they appear. In that sense, seeing repeating numbers might not be a message from the universe, it might be a message from yourself. Think about it. If every time you see 222, you feel reassured, could it be that the number isn't guiding you, but rather you are using it as a tool to guide yourself? Now, if angel numbers are simply a psychological trick, why do so many people experience synchronicities that feel too specific to ignore? Is it just another coincidence? Or is something more mysterious at play? Let's take a closer look at the science of coincidences and synchronicities. If angel numbers were just a trick of the mind, wouldn't people have stopped believing in them by now? And yet, millions still claim these numbers changed their lives. Could it be that, despite the science, there's something real happening? After all, not every coincidence is meaningless. Sometimes, things line up in ways that feel too perfect to ignore. So, is it possible that angel numbers are actually real spiritual signs, just not in the way people think? Many spiritual traditions talk about universal guidance. Some say numbers are like radio signals always broadcasting, but only noticed when you're tuned in. This would explain why some people see them constantly, while others don't. Maybe angel numbers aren't predictions, but reflections. If you keep seeing 111 while making a big decision, could it be a message? Or is it your own intuition manifesting in a way your mind understands? The real question isn't whether angel numbers exist, it's what they represent. Let's consider this. If you're going through a rough time and start seeing 444, does the number itself have power, or is it acting as a mental anchor? Many psychologists argue that signs like these work because they reinforce what you already believe. If you take 444 as a sign of protection, you'll naturally start feeling more secure. But here's where it gets wild, that belief might actually change your energy and behavior. You feel calmer, you make better choices, and suddenly, things improve. Was it just psychology, or was the universe nudging you toward that realization? Quantum physics suggests that observation shapes reality. The famous double-slit experiment shows that particles behave differently when observed. Some believe this proves that consciousness influences the physical world. If that's true, could angel numbers be an example of that process? Maybe they aren't random coincidences, but rather an indication that your focus is shifting, aligning you with a certain energy. Perhaps the universe isn't sending you a message, maybe you're sending it to yourself. But if that's the case, then what about synchronicities? Why do angel numbers sometimes appear in ways that seem impossibly precise, perfectly timed, and deeply personal? Maybe there's more to coincidences than we think. Ever had a thought about someone, and they text you moments later? Or maybe you were thinking of a song, and it suddenly plays on the radio. These aren't just coincidences, they're what Carl Jung called synchronicities, or meaningful coincidences. But here's the twist: science has an explanation for why these events seem so personal. And it has nothing to do with fate. So, are synchronicities real, or is your brain just connecting random dots? The human mind is a prediction machine. It's constantly scanning patterns to make sense of the world. When something unexpected happens, like seeing 1111 and at the exact moment you think of a big decision, brain links the two events, even if they're unrelated. This is called the frequency illusion, where the more you focus on something, the more it appears. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's all random. Some researchers believe our subconscious picks up on subtle cues before our conscious mind does. Meaning, your intuition might be guiding you without you even realizing it. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine you're about to make a risky career move. You're doubting yourself, but suddenly, everywhere you turn, You see 777, a number often associated with luck and alignment. Is it the universe reassuring you, or is your mind highlighting that number because you're already seeking confirmation? The truth is, both could be true. Even if synchronicities originate in the mind, the impact they have on your decisions is very real. And that's where the science gets interesting. Studies in quantum mechanics suggest that observation affects reality. The double-slit experiment shows that particles change behavior when observed. This raises an important question. If our focus influences the material world, could synchronicities be more than just coincidence? Could they be reflections of how our energy interacts with reality? If so, what happens when you stop believing in them? Does life become ordinary again? Or does the universe find new ways to communicate with you? Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding that angel numbers mean nothing. No more looking at the clock and feeling guided. No more seeing 1111 and making a wish. Would your life suddenly change? Or would everything stay exactly the same? Most people never ask this question. They're too afraid of what the answer might reveal. But here's the real shocker. When people stop believing in angel numbers, something strange happens. At first, nothing feels different. The numbers are still there: 444 on license plates, 222 on receipts, but now, they're just numbers. The emotional charge disappears, and yet, for some, life starts to feel empty. Why? Because belief itself is powerful. When you see repeating numbers as divine messages, your brain assigns meaning, making you feel connected, reassured, and in alignment. Take that belief away, and what's left? A random world, a series of meaningless events. That's what most people fear, the idea that maybe, just maybe, life isn't filled with hidden messages. But here's where it gets interesting. Many who abandon the idea of angel numbers start noticing something else. Instead of looking for signs outside themselves, they begin to rely on their own intuition. Decisions become clearer, not because a number confirmed them, but because they finally trust themselves. They realize they don't need a cosmic nudge to know what feels right. The power wasn't in the numbers, it was in them all along. And that changes everything. Does this mean angel numbers are useless? Not necessarily. Some argue that seeing repeating numbers is simply a tool for self-reflection. If seeing 555 reminds you that change is coming, and that thought empowers you to act, does it matter if the number itself has power? Or is the real magic in the way it shifts your perspective? That's the real secret. Belief shapes experience. The question is, what happens when you choose to believe in something different? If you stop looking for numbers, will the universe find another way to reach you? Or was it always you guiding yourself? If angel numbers aren't what we thought, then how do you know when a sign is real? The danger isn't in seeing patterns, it's in misinterpreting them. Many people assume that every repeating number, every coincidence, every synchronicity must have a hidden message. But what if not everything is a sign? When you start seeing meaning in everything, you risk falling into false beliefs, making decisions based on illusions instead of reality. So, how do you interpret signs correctly without getting lost in wishful thinking? First, ask yourself, is this sign guiding me toward action, or just making me dependent on reassurance? Real signs push you to move forward, grow, and evolve. False beliefs keep you stuck, always waiting for the next confirmation. If you won't take action unless you see another 1111, you're not being guided, you're being trapped. A real sign feels like clarity, not addiction. Second, separate intuition from bias. Your gut feeling is different from confirmation bias. If you already want something to be true, your mind will find signs that support it. For example, if you're thinking of quitting your job and suddenly see 555, a number associated with change, is that really a sign? Or were you already looking for an excuse? A true spiritual sign will resonate deeply without needing external validation. Third, look at patterns over time, not isolated events. One random coincidence doesn't mean much. But if the same theme keeps appearing through conversations, unexpected opportunities, repeated dreams, that's a clue. The universe doesn't speak in random numbers. It speaks through alignment. If everything in your life is pointing toward the same lesson, that's a real sign. So if numbers aren't the key, then what is? How do you know when the universe is truly sending you a message? It turns out, the real message isn't hidden in numbers at all, but in something much bigger. If the universe isn't using angel numbers to communicate, then how does it actually speak to you? This is where most people get it wrong. They obsess over signs, looking for meaning in every number, every dream, every coincidence, but they miss the real message. The universe isn't trying to get your attention through numbers. It's trying to get your attention through your own life. The signs aren't on clocks or receipts. They're in the lessons you keep repeating, the emotions you can't ignore, and the opportunities that show up when you least expect them. Think about it. If you're stuck in the same toxic relationship, facing the same problems at work, or feeling lost no matter what you do, that's your real sign. The universe isn't showing you for 144 because you need comfort. It's showing you patterns in your own behavior that need to change. Instead of chasing numbers, start paying attention to what keeps repeating in your life. The things that trigger you, the struggles that keep resurfacing, that's where the universe is speaking loudest. Some people resist this idea because it forces them to take responsibility. It's easier to wait for a number to tell you what to do than to admit you already know. Deep down, you always know. If you keep asking the universe for a sign, chances are you already have the answer, you're just afraid to act on it. The real message isn't hidden in symbols. It's in your intuition, your gut feelings, your inner knowing. The universe doesn't need to send signs when you're fully aligned with yourself. So, what happens next? You stop looking for confirmation and start trusting your own power. You don't need numbers to guide you, you need to listen to your own energy, your own truth. The real message the universe is sending isn't outside of you. It's been inside you this whole time. But now the question is, what will you do with this truth? Because knowing it isn't enough, it's time to act. So, now you know the truth. Angel numbers weren't what you thought. They weren't ancient. They weren't messages from the universe, they were reflections of what was already inside you. You've seen how your mind creates patterns, how beliefs shape reality, and how the real signs were never in the numbers, but in your own intuition. But here's the thing, knowing this isn't enough. The real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you go back to waiting for signs to tell you what to do? Or will you finally step into your own power, knowing that you don't need external validation to trust yourself? The universe has been speaking to you all along, not through numbers, but through your emotions, your choices, and the lessons you keep repeating. Are you ready to listen? Imagine a life where you don't need signs to confirm your path, because you already know where you're going. No more waiting for the next 11:11. No more wondering if the universe is giving you a nudge. You become the one who decides. That's the power of true spiritual awakening. And it starts the moment you stop looking outside for answers and start trusting what's inside. So now, tell me, what's the biggest realization you've had today? Drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if this video opened your eyes, subscribe to the channel right now, because we're just getting started. Turn on notifications so you never miss another insight that could change your life. The universe isn't sending signs anymore. You are. Now, what will you create?